Hi guys, and welcome to another video. We are Tuned In Sports, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Los Angeles Clippers parting ways with Doc Rivers. My name is Steve,
I'm Bennett.
and so we hope you guys will enjoy this content. Uh, Bennett is a true blue Clipper fan. Um, and I'm sure he was as shocked as anybody was to see
Oh,
them get rid of Doc Rivers today. Um, we'll discuss it a little bit and see what his take is, and I'll give you mine, and we'll see where it takes us.
yeah.
So, with that being said, Bennett, the floor is yours. I'll go ahead and let you kind of lead this off.
You know what? As much as I would like to say, I was like, as much as I would like to say, I was surprised by it. Um, I kind of was not, just because we had 7 years of Doc and no even Western Conference Finals appearances. Um, and I think honestly he did a terrible job last year. For especially for all the expectations we had in the season. Um, I didn't think we lived up to those, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, we got knocked out in a 3-1, like choked a 3-1 lead. So
No, no, I definitely agree. That probably was his, undoing right there. I mean, you can't put the kind of talent that this team had together, and from an ownership standpoint, um, ownership was definitely looking at getting to the finals and winning the championship. Um, at least getting to the finals, I would think would have probably been what they would have been okay with doing. But obviously, winning was ideally what they wanted. Um, I thought last year Doc did a wonderful job of coaching a team of a bunch of nobodies and got them to play above and beyond expectations. And then this year, they bring in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, um, and then some other acquisitions as well to really try to improve their chances of moving on into the next rounds of the playoffs and ultimately to a championship. But as good a job as Doc did last year, I thought, that he failed miserably this year. I was very unimpressed with the changes that were made or lack thereof um, going through the playoffs. Um, to me, it was a lot of iso ball, and he didn't really run plays for guys. And when you got players like a Landry Shamet or um,
Lou Williams.
Lou Williams or some of these guys that are volume shooters and the rhythm shooters, you don't get into a rhythm shooting the ball 3 times a night. And so there was a lot of changes, within this team, and some of them handled it better than others. Overall, I think that falls on Doc. Um, I mean, Doc's been nothing but wonderful for the Clippers. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. He brought this team. He did a really nice job the last few years getting this team together, and he has championships experience. I mean, he's won with the Celtics, and so I mean, he knows what he's doing. But I just kind of felt like what he did this year was a little less than impressive. So with that being said, though, I mean, there were some injuries, um, things. The COVID experience was not very nice. Paul George had some stuff going on outside of the court as well. So there was a lot of things that kind of led up to this, but ultimately, I think Steve Ballmer, the new owner there, um, he said all he needed to say. I mean, obviously by getting rid of Doc, I mean, that says a mouthful about how he felt they did as a team. And my only question would be a question that was actually posed by my son. Um, said like, who who are you going to bring in that's going to be better? Which is probably true. I mean, I don't know that you fire Doc and then you find somebody that's going to do more than what he's capable of doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Doc Rivers is not. I mean, you don't just find Doc Rivers out there.
No.
You know, um, and I mean, I'm not sure what direction they're going to go in, but I'm sure they must have a plan. Otherwise, they wouldn't have went down this path. And
Well,
and you figure too, um, he, I mean, Balmer must have been just basically saying, we put this, in your hands, and we came up way short, not just a little.
yeah.
So I think, I'm not sure who they're going to bring in there. Um, I'm like I said. I mean, you don't make this kind of a move though without having something, in,
And yeah, and like
you don't have without having something in mind.
yeah,
So we'll see what happens.
the one guy I kind of hope that they don't bring in though is Ty Lue. I it's not really anything against him because he's won a championship,
Mm-hmm.
but I just think if you could get your I even think Jeff Van Gundy would be a good replacement. Um, or maybe the two that Bryson was mentioning, you know, Nate McMillan and Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson especially, I think he would be a great fill-in for them.
I
What?
do too. I like Mark Jackson. I think he'd be a great fit there. Um, I mean, I don't think it's going to take a couple of days. If Doc wanted the job, he'd have one tomorrow. Um, I'm sure he'll be sought after, and I mean, and by all, I mean, he really should have a job. The guy's a very good coach, and when his time is done, which it is now, but as they look back at his time in LA, it won't be looked at as a failure. It'll be looked at as that he did a nice job resurrecting, a pretty poor
Oh,
team, and had some success and brought in some nice players, and But I mean, ultimately, Steve Ballmer is uh,
very good owner.
he's
I mean,
about winning, and that just goes to show you if he's willing to say go ahead
goodbye to
and
Doc.
go ahead and leave. We don't need you. That tells you,
I just
what the expectations are and what he believes should be, where they should be.
yeah.
So, and that's just the first domino to fall, in my opinion. I mean, I expect to see some changes on the team as well. I wouldn't
Yeah.
at all be surprised if Paul George is gone. The way they talk about Reggie Jackson, he'll probably be gone. I mean, losing Reggie is not that big of a deal because he didn't play all that much and
Yeah.
he wasn't there very long. But I mean, all the stuff I've heard in the media has been less than kind for
Yeah.
a guy that really. I mean, what did you expect from him? I mean, he came over from Detroit. He was scoring 20 some odd points a night.
Yeah.
And they criticize his defense or whatever. I'm like, well, hell, you know, most players are either going to put in the effort on the defensive end or they're going to put it on the offense. So you knew when you brought him in that he's scoring over 20 a night. Well, you can see where he's probably putting his energy.
Yeah.
If you were looking for some guy to come in there and play defense, you wouldn't have brought him in there. You bring in somebody else.
Yeah.
So I mean, that to me, that was just poor scouting on their part as well. I mean, bring him in for what? Now
Yeah.
with that being said, he'll probably shock me and say, "Oh, here we just signed Reggie Jackson to a 4-year deal." Right? When you're thinking he's leaving. But again, that's media telling me, how poorly they think he
Uh,
played. That's not management.
I mean, to be honest, when I first heard about the Doc Rivers getting, getting fired, I was like, is this true? Like, I actually had to second guess it and
Mm-hmm.
actually go take a time to search it because I just didn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't have thought that they would have let him go, especially, considering, like, he has championship experience. And not only that, but he seems to have a knowing of how to work with, like, a lot of talent. Like, like what he did with the Celtics, for example. Took
Yeah, well,
them
I
and
mean,
won the
you're
championship.
going to tell me that, but then look at the job he did when he got Paul George and all these people there, and he didn't manage it very well. I mean, let's face it. I mean, otherwise they would be still around, or at least would have made it to the conference final.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not
Instead,
saying I disagree with you. I'm just saying that I was relatively surprised that they didn't give him another year at least to try and
I mean, and who
gel the
knows? I
team.
mean, but who knows really what went on behind the scenes there? I mean, they're painting the picture like he was fired or something. Who knows? Maybe it was a mutual splitting where he decided that he was ready to move on as well. Um, and I mean, he's probably going to end up somewhere. The Pelicans have been mentioned. I think the Thunder would be a nice fit for him because he's got, experience working with Shea and Chris Paul for that matter. I mean, so he would he would probably be a nice fit there for that team.
I think even the Rockets would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, well, not yeah. I mean, I could see that as well. I mean, they got some talent there, so I could see that being the case. But I mean, regardless of where Doc ends up, I mean, he did a nice he did
Doesn't
a
have any effect on our team, really.
no he did a nice job for LA, and I'm sure as time goes by he'll be appreciated and not be looked at
No.
as some type of a failure because he really did do a nice job of turning things around. And like last year, I thought, I mean, he should have won the Coach of the Year,
Oh
getting the
yeah.
Clippers as far as they went last year. And I mean, to his detriment, they brought in all this nice talent, and you
Didn't
know,
do anything, basically.
didn't perform up to the expectation level.
But it just seems to me like since Doc's been there, it's been the same song and dance.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly looked at as, oh, well, the Clippers win the championship. Because they've always had the talent. I feel like, especially during the Lob City era, I thought they had a really good shot to win a title. Um, with like Jamal Crawford and some of these other guys that were playing pretty good
Mm-hmm.
at that time. I thought they really had a shot. But still, didn't get the results.
No,
It's
he was very unlucky. Injuries played a big key into them not really advancing in those days. I think. I mean, it's kind of been the same ever since Blake Griffin left there. He's injured every postseason. Um, so I mean,
yeah.
he was just unlucky, and because I agree, they had some talent there and some nice players, and I mean, so that would make you think that he really should have performed at a pretty high level with this group,
Yeah,
especially with
exactly.
given his history with the Celtics and Garnett and all those guys. I mean, he was able to win a championship with them. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, truthfully, I don't know how much coaching is really going on when you got that type of roster. I think more or less you're just managing minutes,
Yeah.
and I mean, especially given how they play ball right now, which pretty much every time down the floor is just ISO ball. Here, give the ball to Kawhi. He'll decide whether he wants to pass it or take it up against four players on his own, and you know, let the chips fall where they may. You know, and that seemed to be pretty much the mo for how they handled things.
To,
Moving into the playoffs.
to me, if this year's team, if they had a good offensive scheme, you know, like actually ran some offense, they could have been pretty much impossible to guard. Like pretty much impossible to guard.
Well, I mean, when you have a player like Kawhi,
Well,
you're gonna do whatever you can to get him the ball.
oh
The
yeah,
guy's a machine, pretty much unguardable. Um, I mean, and furthermore, you're gonna sit there and tell me you're gonna tell that guy in the huddle, "Hey, pass the ball." I mean,
yeah. To me,
like
it's just about.
that's gonna go over like and turn the punch bowl.
Well, yeah. Not only
I mean,
that,
it's
but if
just
you
not
want
gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna like that's like telling LeBron to you know like they're gonna tell LeBron to stop shooting or you know play defense or something. Yeah, right. You get on that train, you'll be fired tomorrow.
oh yeah, not only that, but that kind of is like it does play like in terms of like ultimately this is kind of like a 2 year spout here
Mm-hmm.
with Kawhi and Paul, or whether we don't know whether Paul's going to be around or not, because I mean there is a possibility that he could be gone this off season, but you know to me it's all about keeping those guys around. Like they're willing to kind of
Well, I mean,
just let them have free reign to do whatever they want, because ultimately they don't want them to leave in two seasons.
well, I mean, in my opinion, that no matter who takes the coaching position over there,
They're so
it's 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 still gonna be. Let's watch the Kawhi Leonard show. I
yeah.
mean, I can't see no matter what coach goes in there, who's gonna. I mean, who's gonna come in there and change everything about what they're doing? I mean, for the most part, what they were doing was working.
Man, they
I
yeah
mean, they won a lot of games. I mean, it's not like they hobbled into the playoffs with a barely over 500 record. I
yeah
mean, they were very good, but like I said, the thing is that they had so much talent that they didn't really need to play team ball to win games.
yeah.
When you got that much talent, you just beat people just because the guy in front of them can't guard them. And okay, so Kawhi decides not to take a shot. Well, now you got Paul George, and if he doesn't take a shot, well, now you got Lou Williams ready to shoot it, or whatever. I mean, the Clippers have very few deficiencies on that team. I
No,
mean, I think the center position was one that was a glaring position of need for them. And I still get back to if they would have brought in um, Dwight Howard at the beginning of the year, like I thought they should, he's to me he's like the MVP because as soon as he got to the Lakers, I mean they can talk all they want about. I mean, well, obviously LeBron's great, AD's great, but Dwight Howard brought a whole other dimension to that team. I mean, that guy's a big time player, plays underneath, plays hard, plays defense, and so therefore they're sitting in the goddamn finals. And the Clippers could have had him real easy.
yeah.
But instead, no, we're gonna have Zubac. That's what we want. We want Zubac in the middle. This guy's a goddamn sports scoopy. I think I mean, to me, that's one area where they missed the boat.
Well,
And they really didn't have size outside of him. Harrell's not a big. I mean, he's not a center. I mean,
yeah. Speaking of
size
Harold,
wise.
yeah. Speaking of Harold, I don't know what his future is on the team. I mean, I heard that they had interest in bringing him back, but I don't know.
It
There's a
depends
lot
on
of teams looking at him.
it
So,
depends on who the next coach is.
well, yeah. Not only that, but it depends who's going to be offering the most money. That's
No,
ultimately what it comes down to. I
no, but
mean,
I mean, to me, it has more to do with who the next coach is. Because the next coach is going to have some direction he wants this team to go in, and Harold may not be part of the plan.
yeah, that's true
I don't
too.
think they're going to get rid of him until they know who the coach is going to be.
Yeah,
I mean, because how can you really know what direction you're going in until you have a coach? Unless Ballmer's planning on coaching the team himself.
that,
which maybe he
that,
is. Who knows? We have no
that'd be kind
idea.
of funny.
Have no idea. But in my opinion, I mean, the Clippers' undoing was it wasn't all Doc's fault,
Wasn't.
but I mean, ultimately he's got to fall on the sword because they underachieved,
Yep.
and I mean, Ballmer just
Just.
doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to stand for anything but winning. Which,
I
amen,
love it.
and applaud
I
him for
love it.
that. Amen to that, because that's the kind of owner you want. You want a fucking owner that's going to say, hey, we either win or shit's happening and we're changing it.
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want a guy that cares that much where he's going to tell a guy like Doc Rivers,
Hey.
take a hike.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's really what it's about at this point. And I do, I wish Doc well. I don't really have anything bad to say about Doc.
Yeah.
Other than, like I said, I thought he underperformed this year.
But it goes back to, I mean, without him, would this franchise be where it is right now? Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean,
no,
he's what really got this team put on the map, in
yeah.
my opinion.
No,
Is
he
because
definitely changed things when he got there.
yeah,
I mean, things went in the right direction as soon as he hit the floor. So, I mean, he definitely understands how you build a team and the type of players, that are going to make you successful.
yeah.
And I've never heard anything really said about Doc that's been negative, other than what I've just got done spewing. But
I read something today that basically he, what everybody's complaints were with Doc is he didn't like what's the word for it, like put any accountability, like take ownership, or he didn't like put enough blame on some of the players, like Paul George, for example. He didn't really put any, blame on him or.
well, I don't think that's his job to do that. His job is to take ownership of the losses. I mean, those players know those players know who it really falls on is them because they're the ones out there playing. Doc Rivers isn't out there dribbling a basketball.
No.
And so Paul George knows when he plays like crap that he's costing the team.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not Doc Rivers' job to go into the media and say, yeah, Paul George plays like shit. What a horrible job.
No, like in the locker room, though. Not necessarily talking about it in the media.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, those guys don't need to be told when they're playing bad. They know.
Yeah.
They know what's up. I mean, maybe he didn't hold them accountable.
That's what I was trying to say, but I
But
put it
I mean, what are you
later.
gonna do? I mean, really, what are you gonna tell him? What are you gonna tell a guy like LeBron James if he's playing bad?
I don't know.
Because you say anything, you'll be fired.
Yeah, exactly.
You ain't got any power. He's making way more than you are.
Yep.
And he's way more respected than you're ever gonna be. Right? So good luck.
Yeah.
I don't blame Doc for any of that. I mean, like I said, I mean, when you put that kind of talent on a team, I mean, expectations are, you know, beyond belief. Every loss is overanalyzed and scrutinized. Every win is looked at like, oh, you didn't win by enough. Oh, you only beat them by 5. What the hell? It should have been 15.
Yeah.
You think there's a problem going on here? I mean, can you imagine how many stupid questions he gets asked over? Oh, you guys only beat them by 10 points tonight,
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, just dumbass questions that you shouldn't have to really deal with, but that's the media for you.
Yeah.
And especially, he's in the LA market and Laker Town, and the history there is it may not be the Clippers winning, but the Lakers are always winning. And
they're headed towards their next championship. Well, we're sitting at home, so
But I mean, it's just the expectation level is high, and and to some degree, I think because Ballmer is so involved and he's at every game, even on the road, he's sitting at the games. Um, there's a lot. There's probably a lot more um, pressure to perform, and it's not like, oh, Ballmer missed this game. Well, yeah, he doesn't really need to see the tape on that one. Well, he's at the game. He's seeing everything that's going on.
And that's something I always have admired about him as an owner, though.
Yeah.
I love to see the owner involved, being at every game. It's kind of like Mark Cuban, for example.
No. No,
He's
I
always at the games and generally cares about how the team plays.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think you're blessed to have an owner like that if you're a Clippers fan.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's going to hold his players to a high standard, and he almost demands that you win. So I mean, I see that, and I actually can appreciate it. But you know, with that being said, the Clippers, it's going to be interesting to see what
There's a
happens.
lot of question marks this offseason, to say the least. A lot of things that could possibly happen that, might not favor them or will. I
Yeah.
mean, whether they make a couple trades or. And also, like you said earlier, what coach comes in there will probably determine what happens,
What direction they're going
like
to
what
go in?
direction they're going to go and with what players they sign and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, at least you would figure that would be the way it would work.
yeah.
Because I mean, you got to figure everybody's got to kind of work together and um, you know play as a team.
hmm
So, with that being said, this has been another tuned in sports video, and if you like the content, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and you know, this is always a good time to get on here and talk sports. And if you guys have content that you want to see or things you want us to talk about on here,
Thoughts?
please put them in the comment section. And don't forget to I'm on another show with Dent Sports, and if you like to hear content about the Detroit and Denver sports, please tune into that. And with that being said, you guys have a great rest of your evening, and thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.